Hi, I'm Luan Akin with Tagawa Gardens here in Centennial, Colorado, and we are here today with one of my favorite Tagawa people. This is Dee. She is our house plant queen at Tagawa's, and she has shown us in the past kind of the general ideas of bonsai. Today, this is bonsai next level up. We're going to talk about some bonsai maintenance. One of your favorite plants, I know.
Well, yeah, and I've killed a few too, so...
That's how you learn, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's one thing we say is once you've killed a few, congratulations, you're one step closer to becoming an expert.
In the club.
Yeah, and the number one question I get is when I prune my plants, my plant dies, and really pruning doesn't kill your plant. Pruning actually stimulates, but what tends to happen after you prune it is you overwater it. And so the key is remember when you're pruning that you're removing a lot of that photosynthesis, and so the plant's not going to dry out as fast. So you got to remember to make sure that top third of the soil is drying down in between waterings. And then when you do water it, give it a good thorough saturation, because overwatering is not from how much you give it, but how often.
And how quickly it's using it. Do you need to slow down the watering in the winter when the plant's metabolism?
Yes,
Just like people.
Yeah.
Pruning being, I think, one of the most intimidating sides. Let's start there. Prune something, take a deep breath. You're a pro at this, but I always kind of suck in the breath. Show us what you would do, where you would start, and generally why. Doctor,
well,
your implement.
if I don't drop it right. The general maintenance of a bonsai is looking for dead and dying branches, but in the springtime we're going to be pruning it back, and normally we go by the 1/3 rule on that also. So we're taking the branch back by at least 1/3, if not more, and I'm going to take it back to an upward facing leaf.
Okay.
That will give my plant more upward growth. So I'm just going to take this back like so. If you're not sure, put your hand in front of that branch that you're going to cut and see if you're going to miss it. And then see, okay, I'm not going to miss this plant. I'm going to cut it back. And you work your way all the way around. And what I'm trying to do is make a canopy. And if the branch is above it, and you can see this branch is out of its area, so I'm definitely want to remove this branch here. And I'm actually going to go through the whole plant and literally chop it. And I know people have a heart attack when I do this, but when you see the plant and it's only a couple of weeks, you'll start seeing new growth. And people go, well, how can you do this so fast? Well, after you do it a while, then you get pretty good at it.
That's a big plant. Even my untrained eye can kind of look and go, yeah, I get that. This guy, kind of a busy little plant, and I don't have a clue where to start.
Well, that one's been in training for a long time. And this one is pretty much a baby starter bonsai, and it hasn't really been pruned. And so what we want to do is clean out the inner third of those little tiny branches in there. And as you can see on the bigger one, that's already been cleaned out. So pretty much I'm removing any of the smaller branches on the inner third of the tree. So what we're looking for is grasping arms. If we're thinking about the branches, the arms are grasping around you, and that's our front of our tree. And then on the back, we want kind of like a concave type thing. So as I'm going around, I'm looking for those main branches to give me that grasping. So as you can see how this is opening up, and we're not seeing very many branches facing towards you. If you do, then you want to remove those branches to kind of open it up. But I have this nice back concave look.
What about something I can relate to in my personal plant growing life, which is insect issues? We don't think of bonsai as having that many problems with insects, but it happens.
Yeah, and that's because they're stressed. And the number one bug that attacks bonsai are mealybug.
Point out on this one, because it's such a beautiful plant otherwise.
Usually mealy are on the growing point, but not always. There's a little critter right here. And usually they like it where there's new growth, and they hide underneath the leaves and in the crooks of the branches. A lot of times they'll hide down where there's dead matter or where the bark is kind of loose, and they'll get down in the bark. And then I'll usually use either oil-based insecticide. You can kind of see there's an oil on the top here. Give it a good shake, and then give it a really good spray down. You want to get down in there and really spray it. Get in there, and I even like rub the branches, work it in, get those get it so you're actually exposing those insects. And you may have to be persistent. And I advise about 7 to 10 day intervals. Go back another 7 to 10 days later, check to see, but I would even spray even if you don't see anything.
One of the last topic we'll cover here, and one of the most challenging, is watering. How do you water your bonsai?
Well, and of course, I water them depending on the environment that they're in. But really the key is let the plant tell you when to water.
Use that 1/3.
Use the 1/3 rule. Make sure you're digging down into the soil or using a moisture meter. If the soil media is not too rocky, moisture meters work very well. If the probe moves at all, you know you don't need to water. Yeah, it's moving.
Definitely.
You may want to mist. Okay. And just a little bit of misting with some pretty much filtered water that doesn't have a lot of minerals in it. Misting will really help them, especially the undersides of the leaves. Because these guys are in relatively shallow pot, I do what's called the submersion technique. And mainly you're submersing the plant so the water level is above the crown of the plant. And as you're putting it down into the water slowly, it's going to bubble. And as it's bubbling, pretty much you just leave it there. And once it's done bubbling, which can take seconds, you pull it out, let it drain. Sometimes I do one last little dunk just to make sure that I got it good. The plant's going to be very heavy, and then you know that you've gotten it thoroughly saturated.
I told you she was like a walking encyclopedia. Dee, the queen of houseplants here at Tagawa's, knows everything about bonsai. All the other plants you see behind us, she is one of many to ask here, but she knows exactly what kind of advice to give you. So come see us at Tagawa's. We are your garden store and so much more. If you like this video, feel free to share it with a friend. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter and at our website, TagawaGardens.com.